about to debunk the biggest lie that I've seen circulating the makeup space lately, and that is that you need to match your makeup to your undertones.
Matching your undertones is the key to natural and fresh looking makeup. So if your veins look blue or purple, try pinks, plums, or berry tones. So if your veins look bluish green, try peaches or corals. Which look do you guys like?
Stop it.
This is such facile logic, and it leaves so much room for misinterpretation. And my biggest complaint about it is that it puts you in a box, which is my least favorite thing about any kind of makeup philosophy. I want to open the world of color up to everyone. And I'm so tired of short form content just telling you in 30 seconds or less that you can't do your makeup a certain way. I get a little incensed about it. So today I'm going to demonstrate why it's not true. I'm going to do one side of my face in warm tones, one side of my face in cool tones, and I'm going to show you why this myth is actually so confusing and so annoying and so unproductive. I might complain a little bit, but I'm getting in the color theory weeds. Thank you for bearing with me. I hope this is helpful. Let's go ahead and jump in. I'm actually really excited to demonstrate this because like this is the kind of stuff that lives rent free in my brain all the time. It gets me so excited. And to be doing a video that's only about this, I'm gonna start by putting my foundation on because this is the one thing that you should match to your undertones. Complexion product, mainly foundation. You can get away with all sorts of things with concealer and bronzer and what have you. I'm gonna show you, but your foundation should match your skin because you're putting it on your skin and you want it to look like skin. You can iterate that on any direction you want to, but it's important to know like where you're beginning from, right? So I'm starting with a great shade match, and that is the Prada Reveal Foundation. I have it in LN5. So something that is quite confusing for people is the idea of color having this inherent identity, right? I'm gonna get kind of existential on you for a second. Colors on the light spectrum, they do have identities, right? We're talking about like proportions of yellow and magenta and cyan, right? But when we're talking about skin, yes, there are certain guideposts, but it is more than anything else all relative. So while you could assign blue the name of being a cool tone, that is not, at the end of the day, the point. The point is whether you want to wear blue. So all these creators that I'm seeing with their little TikToks being like, if you're a cool undertone, you need to be wearing blue and gray eyeshadow, throw it out the window. You can wear blue and gray eyeshadow if you want to, okay? And you don't have to if you're cool toned. And I think that it's kind of a harmful thing to circulate because if you are cool toned and you start buying a bunch of blue and gray eyeshadows and you feel like you look bananas, then you're at a stalemate. You're like, what did I do wrong? So what is the overarching philosophy? Let's detach ourselves from the idea of certain colors having certain identities. You can have a cool red, you can have a warm blue, okay? It's all about its temperature relative to what it's next to because that's what the eye perceives. This is a cool red. This is a warm blue. The rules as we know them do not apply. So for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to keep my skin as like tonal as possible. I'm gonna use a phenomenal actual skin tone match for me, which is the Hourglass Concealer in Silk. It is like not brightening at all. I use it mostly as a foundation. Let's go ahead and get this on. Okay, I'm going to start by swatching the two bronzers and the two contours that I'm going to use on each side of my face because it just as a visual demonstration, I think it's gonna make some stuff click for y'all. So we have here warm bronzer. This is the Rare Beauty Power Boost. And this is going to be my cool bronzer, which is Mojave from Persona Cosmetics. Look at just the difference there, right? Much more yellow, much more like blue, honestly, by comparison.
Please forgive me if this is your first video for talking about color in such absolute terms. I know that that swatch is not blue. But I also know that anytime you are mixing cosmetics that are meant to mimic a skin tone, so a foundation, a concealer, a bronzer, you are working with a very limited palette, right? You're talking about yellow, red, black, and white in whatever proportions. And so in order to find what else is there, you have to look past the yellow and the red and see what's left. Now you're like, okay, but it's a cool toned bronzer. Doesn't it have blue in it? The colors that are used to mix cosmetics are not pure colors. There's really almost no such thing as a pure color on the like visual spectrum, right? It's just meant to be a guide of how colors relate to one another. So the black pigment that's used in cosmetics a lot of times can pull something into a cooler direction. It sort of behaves almost like blue when it's mixed because it does have kind of a blue tinge to it. Titanium dioxide, anybody who's gotten a blue tint to their skin from using a titanium dioxide based SPF, you know that it can also go blue. So that can be counterbalanced in a formulation with more yellow and red in order to create a warmer bronzer or a warmer skin tone, but the addition of black or white will tend to cool off a formula. And my eye is just trained from art school, from being a cosmetologist for 8 years, to just see past the orange, right? The combination of the proportions of yellow and red, and just see what else is left, especially when they're sitting next to each other. So if that's not like obvious when you look at it, you're not crazy either.
And then we have my warm contour, which is Biscuit from Westman Atelier. It's going to be cool relative to this, but it's almost the same color, right, as Mojave. I know that this is like discontinued, somebody bought them, whatever. I don't know what's going on with Uma, but I love this color. This is my cool contour. So this is cool relative to this. This is cool relative to this, even though these two are very, very similar in color. Let's put them on. Power boost. So I guess we're deciding this is the warm side. So if you are, I'm neutral, which could seem like color entitlement, right? Like, oh, of course you can wear both, but it's like not a both thing because we're not talking about something being a static version of a warm tone, right? It's just about finding warmth compared to your skin. Here's Biscuit from Westman Atelier. Boo, 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 boo. Beautiful cream products. I love these formulas. And you can see that is cool by comparison. So we're getting a really nice little snatched jawline, snatched cheekbone there. And it looks believable to the eye, right? We're not having to do too much work. I'm gonna flip my sponge around here. We're gonna go in with Mojave. You're gonna see 3 of these in this tutorial because I have really fallen in love with the Persona sticks as they have been releasing new shades, and they just sent me 2 new shades in the mail yesterday. It is a peach and a mauve, and they are beautiful and they're going to work really well for this. Now, the entire philosophy here comes from painting, right? And that is that we use warm tones to make it look like something is coming towards you in a painting, and you use cool tones, desaturated tones, to make something look like it is receding from the eye. And so we are using cool tones by comparison to what they're next to, not necessarily the identity of it being cool, in order to give the illusion of shadow. So that's why I take such exception and I get so frustrated by the idea of diagnosing your skin and telling you exactly what colors that you can wear and that you have to match them to the temperature of your undertone, is because if you do that, it takes away all of your power to work with shadow and light to create illusion, which is what makeup is for. I mean, makeup is for a lot of things, but one of the biggest things makeup is for creating shadow and light illusions. Cool tone contour. Nice. It's so pretty. So you can see that even though Mojave is a cooler bronze, it still looks like it's a plumping effect on the cheek because it's warmer by comparison to the Uma contour. Now, if that's too subtle, let's go ahead and go in with blush. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is arguably an unnecessary step, but I feel like it's kind of like completing the chord progression, even if you can't hear the notes kind of thing, just for the sake of color theory visual demonstration, right? So this is Mimi. This is a blush that is exclusive to the Westman Atelier website, and it is neither cool nor warm compared to my skin. It is perfectly neutral on me. Latte from Anastasia Beverly Hills is the exact same color. You don't have to pay this much money for it. So I'm going to start by layering this on both sides. Then I will deviate in either direction in terms of temperature. So as you can see, Mimi just kind of pulls a really nice, lovely, natural beigey pink on me. And what I'm doing is I'm filling the color. Like we talked about in my contrast video, as I'm going to apply something that might not completely sync perfectly with my skin tone and look entirely organic and natural and like it grew there, we just have to fill in my skin tone with those mid-tones, those beiges essentially, so that any translucence in the more vivid colors isn't going to belie some kind of like strange muddiness underneath the makeup. And it's ever so slightly highlight. There's hardly any, but it just added the necessary opacity here so that when I put these colors on, you're not gonna see through them. So we have here Georgia, like I said, and the other one is called Carmel. Georgia is the exact color of my nails. Oh, I love that color, love it. And then Carmel is also a color that I love, and it is a beautiful desaturated, like cool mauve. And you can see it's like the color of my lips. Ooh. Starting with Georgia. Boop, boop, boop. That's a lot of blush. Putting this on a Yenza brush, yeah. I like this little guy. And you can see that where we bridged the gap, you get this really nice opacity to skin. This is a color, though, that's easy for me to wear. In fact, both of these really are. So that's the other reason I'm like, don't let anybody tell you that you can't wear cool tones or warm tones, because they're wrong.
No, I'm not going to end up blending that little spot of blush that I just put on my chin. Let's all just try to ignore it.
And I mean, you can go absolutely bananas with it if you want to, and we might just yet. I just need to see what we end up with on my eyes first. All right, and here we have Carmel, a nice, cool mauve compared to my skin. Do you see how it immediately pulls the color out of my lips? Like it just makes that blue purple thing that I have in my lips really exaggerated. Now, I have neutral warm undertones. I do not have warm lips. I have very unpigmented lips. So assigning them their own undertone, I mean, it helps again to make something like this look really natural, but at the same time, like it is very separate from your actual skin's undertones. They're different things. Cool tones, warm tones. But together, it's kind of hard to tell. Isn't that wild? Okay, I have two Natush Nunu palettes here. I'm gonna go with the I Need a Nude palette on this side and the Golden palette on this side. If you're like Kackie, you're not using like something that's truly cool toned on your eyes. It's cool compared to my skin tone. I could wear blue if I wanted to. I could make it work, but it's about the color you want to wear and making that work on you. It's not about obeying some kind of rule that like, if I'm doing a cool tone makeup look, it has to be blue. And guess what? We're still gonna use warm tones, relatively speaking, in order to achieve this, but we're going to stay in kind of this cool family. Let's open up the Golden palette and I'll show you. Like these are very different in terms of their temperature values. But on someone who's super cool toned, you might be able to get warmth out of this. I'm just gonna keep hammering that home, okay? So, vague is cool compared to what? Wit. I almost said Wi-Fi. What is wrong with me? It's just got more blue in it, and so we're gonna use that in the crease because we are what? Creating shadow. That's the whole idea of a cool tone, is to use it to create shadow. Cool tone, say it with me, by comparison to what's next to it. I think I thought it was Wi-Fi because there's one called Mesh Wi-Fi. That's a thing. Blending that in with my contour a little bit. That's another thing. Being aware of this phenomenon, right? Of being able to use cool tones and warm tones together, relatively speaking, in order to achieve certain things, is also going to help you understand why sometimes your eye makeup doesn't go with your skin makeup kind of thing. And it's not because one doesn't look good on you and one does, it's because they don't go together. Because if you put a bunch of really cool tones on your eyes relative to what's on your face, it's gonna make your eyes look smaller. So you can still use cool tones, but you wanna make sure that you are matching the temperature level between your skin and your eye look and your lips and everything so that the eye believes it. Otherwise, it's going to go straight to the contrast, right? So this is essentially a superpower that if you are unaware of it, it can bite you in the butt. I'm gonna go even cooler. We're gonna go over here to Stone, right on the outer corner. I might even throw like a little bit of a really light pink on my cheek over here and maybe like a coral over here to really accentuate it, you know? Okay, Wit right here is warm by comparison. So I'm gonna throw that on the lid. Glitter also really helps. Still a cool tone palette, still a cool tone. That's still a cool toned pink in general, but it is warmer than what I have in the crease. And I'm also going to use that same shade right here because again, we're talking about kind of topography, right? If you were like lay your head back and you look at it like a mountain range, like the elevation here is the same as the elevation here. So those are the places that we want to put the warmer tone because then it's going to kind of accentuate, it's going to exaggerate the difference between the shadow and the light. See? It's gonna make my crease look creasier. And that allows you to do what I do a lot, which is make a false crease. So I'm gonna take Stone and even Tender right here, very cool browns, gray browns, and work that out here, blendy blendy, into my outer corner because we are able to manipulate light and make that look like the illusion of a shadow. Boom, right? So I'll take a little bit of Muse here because it's this really nice, like relatively warm, still neutral, but a relatively warm kind of gold shade. When you can't go into these palettes without using the textured shadows. I mean, look at that. That was just so easy. Absolutely lovely. Use Fair right here up in the brow and on the inner corner. And if I wanted to make this look like it was receding a little bit from the eye, I could take something like Mia right here, which is such a cool toned purple, and put it, I'm hungry, and put it in the inner corner. And it makes the inner corner recede from the eye a little bit because it's a cooler toned version of that glitter compared to what's on the lid. It's subtle, but it works. All right, let's go into Natasha Denona Golden. Beautifully warm, unabashedly gold. So we're gonna do something really similar, but I'm gonna work in warmer tones, but we're gonna work in cool tones in the crease relative to the warm tones on the lid, etc., etc. So if you look at Aria, right, compared to like Teak, Aria is cooler toned. So we'll start with that in the crease. Aria in and of itself might be warmer than anything I put on the other eye, but it's gonna be cooler by comparison to everything else that I put on here. So then we'll go in with Teak. It doesn't really matter because we're going to be working with glitter. I'm gonna go with Flesh right here, nice warm cream, and see, very warm. And work that. In fact, I think I'll do that on my lid as well. It's just a good visual example of how to use the temperature right there to your advantage to create shadow and light. So we've got that more cool tone in the crease and the warmer tone everywhere else. So I'll grab a little bit more of Aria, even a little bit of Log. It's big, it's heavy, it's wood. And throw that on the outer corner. So it's not just that it's darker, it's that it's cooler. And you can also use texture to do this. So a lot of times when I do a whole face of like cream makeup, I will still use a powder contour because powder absorbs light more so than a shiny surface. And so that dewy texture is also going to look nearer to you, and you can build the illusion of more shadow by using something that's gonna absorb light. Okay, and then a little bit of Miko here. This is actually kind of a green white, which is interesting that she chose this, but that's just my weird overtrained eye. Aura, right? We're gonna do the exact same thing with Aura that we did. You can't see it. This is the coolest tone in the the coolest tone shade in the palette, and it makes a fantastic inner corner shade because it's so cool by comparison, but it's still warmer than the other eye. Isn't that wild? And then I will take what? Kava? Yeah, Kava's really nice and warm. Although I'm not sure it's as textured. Maybe we'll do even more with Alchemist here. Gold, gold, gold. Warm, warm, warm. And I know that there are gonna be people who are like, I prefer one side over the other kind of thing. The point is the comparison, but you're free to like whichever one you like better. You know? I'm gonna use a warm brown on this side and a cool brown on this side. So this is the Persona in Chocolate, and then this is the Sephora collection in Tiramisu. And I'm just gonna put brown mascara on both sides because I want it to still look good. This is still something that I would wear. It's not the visual demonstration of like contrast and like why black mascara doesn't work on me kind of thing. It's different. These are both insanely good formulas. Take it a little further on the blush. I have here NARS Sex Appeal. I think that this is going to be a beautiful cool toned addition to this side. And I'm gonna grab a coral for this side. This is really just scratching so many itches for me right now. Do you see how they both look so at home? Cool, warm. Cool, warm. So, the last step here is lips, and this is overall a very low contrast look. I'm not demonstrating what I was demonstrating in the video before where it's like low versus high contrast. This is low contrast because low contrast is what I think is the easiest for me to wear. So in that spirit, I have two lip glosses, which is what I would typically go for, right? With a look like this is something that's translucent. So this is Thrive Ruth, a pretty kind of coral leaning nude, a really nice warm tone versus my skin. It's a plumping formula. It's delightful. I love this stuff. I'm currently lobbying them to try and get my lip liner shade put into this formula because I like it so much. And then this is my lip gloss from the Finding Ferdinand Après Ski collection. This is Cafe Noisette. You can still get this. The hex codes are pinned on my Instagram profile, and it is a gorgeous cool tone beige. So subtle, the differences. So subtle. We actually haven't powdered at all. Something, again, super skin toned. So I'm gonna use the diffusion set in Translucent Fair from Make Beauty, just to take the shine down right there a little bit. Oh, and I had Cool and Warm highlighters. Let's do it. My lips feel so funny because this side is plumping and this side isn't. I'm like, rah, rah, rah. So I did buy the Patrick Ta highlighter. This is gonna be a first impression because I have like obviously stuck my fingers in it, but I haven't put this on my face yet. I don't know, this is probably the wrong brush, but I'm doing it anyway. This is gonna be my warm tone side. This is in Daddy. I love that he called it Daddy. Oh, it's so funny. So funny to me. And it's kind of got like a pink reflect to it. Ooh, it's really nice. It's like bridging the coral and the gold for me. And I'm not gonna do the cream because that will be for a future video. That could screw the whole game up. And then I'll just flip my brush over and go into the Natusha Denunu. This is the High Gen, and it is obviously kind of a silvery champagne, so. Now these are polar, right? We're talking about purple and yellow. Like those are quite polar color families. But you can go anywhere in between on the spectrum. We're talking about the differences between a cool beige and a warm beige. Like that's why latte makeup works, is because you're using just a bunch of different temperatures of brown. It's all possible, and I want to open it up to you. You get to pick the colors you want to wear, and then you get to use shadow and light compared to your undertones in order to create illusions and beauty and whatever it is that you want to create, empowered with those tools, not restricted by those rules. I'm a poet! I'm a poet. Nobody get that tattooed on them. That's just, that was off the cuff. We want you to be empowered with the tools, not restricted by the rules. Oy vey. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about in terms of contrast, that's where this all began, is with my contrast video. It's called The Biggest Makeup Secret That No One Talks About, because no one talks about contrast, and it makes such a huge difference in your makeup and in your ability to achieve what you have in your head and put it on your face. That's what I'm always trying to do, is equip y'all with the knowledge to take what you have in your imagination and put it on your face. I'm here to show you examples, but I want you to be able to do what it is that you want to do eventually without a recipe. And I don't know if you can tell, but I'm absolutely thrilled by color theory, or art math as I call it. So if all of that sounds good to you and you haven't yet subscribed, please subscribe while you're here. If you enjoyed the video, if you got something out of it, please give the video a thumbs up. Feel free to talk amongst yourselves down below. Let me know your experience with this phenomenon. Whether you have been trying to like match your makeup to your undertones, whether you're confused about your undertones, what you've learned that's really helped you. I just want to enrich the community with your knowledge as well. I'm not the be all end all. Everybody's face is different, and all of your input is important because I want to know everyone's experience. It also helps richen my future reviews and my future tutorials. So I want to thank y'all in advance for that. I'll stick the video right here. Thank y'all so much for being here. I love you so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.